we have reached the final segment on In My Own Words, Touchdown Alabama magazine. Stephen Smith wanted to get in contact with Evelyn Van Pelt of the Rebel Walk, but could not do that on this week. Looking forward to catching up with her soon. But to wrap things up here, Alabama, Ole Miss to open up Southeastern Conference play Saturday, Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, Oxford, Mississippi. CBS, who normally gets the call to air the first Alabama game in conference play, doesn't get it. ESPN gets it, and they got it in prime time, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll look at 5 players, 5 Ole Miss players that Alabama has to be on the lookout for, has to keen in on. We'll start this off with quarterback Jordan Ta'amu, the senior. Nick Saban has mentioned a couple of times this week about his athleticism, accuracy as a passer, the timing he has with each of those wide receivers. If you remember, last year Ta'amu played behind Shea Patterson. Patterson went down, of course, due to an injury. Ta'amu came in as a junior, completed 66.5%, 115 of 173 passes completed for 1,682 yards, 11 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Did a pretty good job. And now with Shea Patterson at Michigan, Ta'amu's the guy, Ta'amu's the QB, and so far this season, off to a blazing start, completing 45 of 65 passes, 69.2%, near 70, 784 yards, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's averaging 392 passing yards a game. The first thing that stands out to me about this young man, he does have adequate size at the quarterback position at 6'2", 210 pounds. He's got size, he's got pretty good ability to run the football, escape the pocket, extend the play, but his main thing is stretching the field, getting the ball out to the guys like DK Metcalf, DeMarcus Lodge, AJ Brown, which we'll get into in a minute, Dawson Knox at tight end. Jordan Ta'amu wants to stretch the field. He's got a big time arm. Like Tua Tagovailoa of Alabama, Ta'amu's a Hawaii native, Pearl City, Hawaii. So we have 2 Hawaiian punches going at it, slinging a rock this weekend at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Should be a very fun matchup. Ta'amu, for 2018, he's on the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award watch list. The likes of Anthony Jennings, Christian Miller, Raekwon Davis, Quinnen Williams, Isaiah Buggs, Mack Wilson, Dylan Moses. They have to find a way to create pressure, affect Jordan Ta'amu in the pocket, not allow him to have a successful, efficient day throwing the football. He's got the size, he's got the arm talent, he's got the receivers. Most importantly, he's got the experience playing last year behind Shea Patterson. Very confident guy under head coach Matt Luke, offensive coordinator Phil Longo. They'll have a lot of scheme going in this game, but number one, you got to go with Jordan Ta'amu at quarterback. Moving on down to number 2 for Ole Miss, impact players for Alabama to watch. Sticking with the offensive side of the football, we're going to go with Scottie Phillips here, the junior running back. It's interesting having Phillips at number 2 because Ole Miss has never consistently trusted the run game. They did some things with Houston Nutt as head coach, but under Hugh Freeze, it was more so RPOs, more so deep timing routes, passing the football downfield, stretching the ball out, if you will. They would run the ball maybe every 5th play. There would be a delay handoff here, a simple draw there, maybe a misdirection somewhere in the mix, but there was never a full trust to the run game. Itavius Mathers was good, Jeff Scott was decent, Akeem Judd was okay, but aside from Jordan Wilkins, who had 1,000 yards last season, 1,011 yards and 9 touchdowns, and he's now playing for the Indianapolis Colts, the last rusher that Ole Miss had that opponents really feared, a guy that would attack the edge, break out in the open space, hit the hole hard, was a wide receiver by the name of Dexter McCluster. McCluster was a wide receiver, but he was the last guy to really be that home run threat running the football. 2009, 1,169 yards rushing, had 8 touchdowns. Scottie Phillips could be the guy for the first time since McCluster, and more recently the first guy consistently since Jordan Wilkins, to give Ole Miss that balance its offense needs under Phil Longo. Scottie Phillips at 5'11", 211 pounds here. He's right now 31 carries, 311 yards, 4 touchdowns, leading the team in rushing. He averages a little over 10 yards a carry and 155 yards a game. Prior to coming to the Land Shark Nation known as Ole Miss, Phillips, a JUCO transfer from Jones County Junior College. He helped the Bobcats obtain an 8-2 record in his final season there. The Bobcats getting a South Division title and made it to its first playoff appearance in 4 years. His senior year, Phillips, 1,070 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns. Nick Saban compared this young man to Mark Ingram during his Hey Coach show on Thursday. It's pretty high praise there coming from Nick Saban. Seeing how Mark Ingram, 2009 Heisman Trophy winner, first Heisman winner in the history of the Crimson Tide football program, went on to be a first-round NFL draft pick, 28th overall to the New Orleans Saints. But if you look at the running styles between Phillips and Ingram, they do similar. Both guys low to the ground, lower center of gravity. Both guys hold the ball tight. They hit the hole, they cut back, enough shiftiness, good vision, strong power behind the pads. You see quite some similarities there. You go back to Ingram's junior year with the Tide in 2010, 158 carries, 875 yards, 13 touchdowns, and these were his numbers despite having the orthoscopic knee surgery. Scottie Phillips, if he continues on the pace he's on, he can eclipse those very same numbers. Once again, 31 carries, 311 yards, 4 touchdowns, bringing that balance that Ole Miss needs on offense. It's always been a team that can put up 40, 50, 60 points at will. It's always been a team of RPOs under former offensive coordinator Dan Werner, prior to now Phil Longo being in. It's always been a team that's had solid play at the quarterback position the last few years. It's lacked the balance. And I think with Scottie Phillips, it will finally have that balance moving forward. He's number 2. Prior to moving on from him, ESPN did list him as a 4-star JUCO running back prior to him going to Mississippi. Moving on down to my number 3 guy here on this list of 5 players to look out for if you're Alabama in terms of those Rebels. We go to the wide receiving core, but we do finally now pick up A.J. Brown, the junior out of Starkville, Mississippi. He was in Bulldogs Nation backyard. Hail State thought they had him, thought they was going to get him. A.J. Brown decides to spurn the cowbell and go to the Land Shark Nation of Ole Miss. And since he's been with the Rebels, a game-changing athlete. This man 6'1", 230 pounds, physical freak of nature. Ole Miss has a good tight end in Dawson Knox. To me, he's young O.J. Howard. In a sense of, we all knew how talented O.J. was. It was just a matter of time before Alabama finally would consistently, to some degree, get that man the football. That's how good Dawson Knox is. And then you look at, despite the fact that DK Metcalf is the same weight class as Brown at 230, he's taller than Brown at 6'4". Then there's DeMarcus Lodge, who's 6'2", can play the slot, can also play the outside. And then we have a young guy in Braylon Sanders. Despite all of these weapons, everything runs through A.J. Brown. The chemistry, the connection between Brown and Ta'amu is very, very good. And this is a young man in A.J. Brown who at one point, when Ole Miss was under all the sanctions, all the scrutiny, all the rigmarole that Hugh Freeze brought upon himself, it was A.J. Brown that posted a GIF on Twitter talking about he is not leaving the program. And Ole Miss Nation thoroughly appreciates him for that. This season, 15 catches, 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, all 3 of those team highs. He's averaging 125 yards a game. That's a team high. Last year, the guy was just ridiculous. 75 catches, 1,252 yards, 11 scores. All of those were team highs. Averaged 104.3 yards a game receiving. That was a team high. Check this out. In terms of Ole Miss receivers, since 2008, there have been only 3 guys from Mississippi to turn in a 1,000-yard season since 08. Those guys I have listed right here. 2009, Shea Hodge did it, 1,135 yards. 2015, Laquan Treadwell did it, 1,153 yards. And then, of course, 2017, A.J. Brown did it, 1,252 yards. Here is somebody this year. Watch list for the Maxwell Award, the Biletnikoff Award, the Walter Camp Award. He's a preseason All-American first team and preseason first team All-SEC candidate. A.J. Brown is no joke. And the matchup will be, who does Nick Saban feel the most comfortable with? Who does Tosh Lupoi, who does Carl Scott feel the most comfortable with taking on A.J. Brown? Is it Trayvon Diggs? I've seen him at nickel some this week. I've seen him in the starting dime some this week. Is it Trayvon Diggs, who's 6'2"? Is it Shaheem Carter? Is it Patrick Surtain? Is it Savion Smith? Who does Alabama, Nick Saban, Tosh Lupoi, Carl Scott feel the most comfortable putting on A.J. Brown and entrusting that particular defensive back to lock on to a potential first-round draft pick of a wide receiver? Because that's the biggest matchup in this game. Aside from the 2 trigger pullers at quarterback, that's the matchup. Who wants A.J. Brown? Who wants to lock him up and take him out of the ball game? This is a big-time, big play receiver. He's number 3 on this list. If Alabama can take him away from the offense, they pretty much got this offense figured out. Moving on down to number 4 here. Guys to watch out for if you're Alabama against Ole Miss. We finally get to the defense. And at number 4, we'll pick up linebacker Detric Ben Dukes, Sr. Ben Dukes, your typical inside linebacker build, 6'1", 253 pounds. It's been a very interesting journey for this young man. His career started at Georgia, was recruited by Mark Richt, who's now at Miami with the turnover chain and that ordeal. Started off at Georgia, then goes the JUCO route to Iowa Western, helped that program get a 10-2 season. And then he goes in 2016, by that year, he's at Ole Miss with the Rebels. 2016, Ben Dukes exploded, 41 tackles, 3 of those for loss. The last 2 years, it's kind of been tapered back. 2017, this past year, only had 24 tackles. To start this season, has 6 tackles in the first 2 games. He's played in 23 games, but he's only had 10 starts at Mike linebacker. So Ben Dukes is still kind of learning that position, learning that role, feeling his way in. I remember in recent conversations with my friend Evelyn Pelt of the Rebel Walk, she talked about how, Ben Dukes is a guy that the Rebels are really looking forward to seeing step up under defensive coordinator Wesley McGriff. I mean, the Rebels had Marquise Haynes to go to the NFL, DeMarcus Gates to go to the National Football League, Breland Speaks, of course, is gone. So those were 3 of your leaders. Detric Ben Dukes is back as a leader in the middle of that defense, patrolling that front 7, getting everybody lined up, making the calls on the field. Wesley McGriff is looking for him to be that dog, to be that alpha male, to be that voice for this football team, and I think he can do it. It's just now he's got to get himself more in a clean rhythm of doing it. Got 6 tackles so far this season. Light bulb's going to seriously be on him against Alabama, especially in getting through that offensive line, trying to hit the likes of Damian Harris, Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, Josh Jacobs, along with affecting Tua Tagovailoa in the pocket. But number 4 guy, Detric Ben-Dukes on my end. 5th guy for Ole Miss to keep your eye on, sticking with the defense, going to that secondary, we've got C.J. Moore, a senior, 5'11", 191 pounds, and this is not a secondary that had the pieces it once had. At one point in time, Ole Miss had guys like Trey Elston, Tony Bridges, Tony Connor, Cody Pruitt, Sinquist, Golson, Mike Hilton. They had some dogs. They had some guys in years past under Hugh Freeze. Now, yes, he cheated to get a lot of those players, but they had some dogs in years past under Hugh Freeze. Not saying that this team under Matt Luke does not have talent. I'm saying that the marquee names that we were so used to seeing Ole Miss get, Ole Miss have, Rebels putting on the field, are not there in huge capacity at this moment. But C.J. Moore is there, senior safety, had a torn pectoral muscle in 2016, missed that entire season. He's been with the Rebels since 2014, but 2017 last year had a bounce back season. 51 tackles, 2.5 of those for loss, had 2 pass breakups, shared the team lead in interceptions with 3 so far this year. Moore, 7 tackles. So you got Ken Webster in the secondary, you got a couple of other players back there, but C.J. Moore is the guy that's got to take the reins, lead this group, try to generate some turnovers, some pass breakups, some big plays, challenging the throws that Tua's going to make. That's the biggest part. Latching on to the receivers, but challenging the throws coming out of Tua's hand this week as he's in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Very hostile, crazy, tricky environment. I was there twice. I was there in 2014 when Bo Wallace had the fans tear the goalpost down after the 23-17 win for the Rebels. I was there 2 years later in 2016 where Chad Kelly had the guys in the shootout, and it took Jalen Hurts, the defense making plays, and an 85-yard punt return touchdown from Eddie Pick Six Jackson to win that game 48-43 in Oxford. It's a very crazy environment. But C.J. Moore, 5th guy there as a player to look out for. So going back through these again, 5 guys for Ole Miss. If you're Alabama, circle them, watch for them, defend, know where they are. Jordan Ta'amu, number 1, quarterback. Number 2, Scottie Phillips, running back. Number 3, A.J. Brown, wide receiver. Number 4, Detric Ben-Dukes, linebacker. Number 5, C.J. Moore, safety. Had a pretty good week of topics, folks. We did get a chance to get into the MVPs from Alabama's win over Arkansas State. Wanted to dive in more about how I felt like Nick Saban has mishandled the quarterback thing a little bit, but we'll save that for another time, another venue. And then we also got a chance to dive into, at this point, the guys that you have to watch out for in terms of facing Ole Miss. Huge game this weekend. Alabama, Ole Miss. ESPN has to call 6 p.m. Central Time. For all of us here at Touchdown Alabama Magazine, I'm your man, Stephen M. Smith. As always, check out tdalabamamag.com. Get you that subscription. Check out Touchdown Alabama Magazine YouTube. Get plugged in. Until next time, folks, so long, everybody. It's been in my own words.